hours. So by the end of today, you will hopefully have enhanced techniques for teaching online, and we will also be providing certificates as well with the support of our friends and colleagues at Interpress. So without any further ado, I would like to hand over now to Jill so that we can begin today's webinar. So Jill, over to you.
Thank you very much, Luke. I'm very pleased to be here, to be working with you this morning. We're looking at online learning and teaching in Kazakhstan, and we're looking at the English Plus Kazakhstan edition and the Solutions Science Grade 11. My name's not Paul Woodfull, my name is Jill West. Okay, Paul is my colleague and he's working with another region. So moving on from here, let's have a look. We've been conducting workshops all week. It's an enormous pleasure to be working with you in Kazakhstan. I visited Kazakhstan 2 years ago and did some workshops in the Western region. And today we're working with Karaganda and Petropavlovsk. I hope my pronunciation is all right, but it's quite new to me. So anyway, it's a great pleasure and a very warm welcome to our workshop. Now, I'd like to just start with a very quick sense check of what you are actually teaching at the moment. So which grades and which course book. We're going to put a poll up and I'd like you to type it into the poll, not the chat box. Okay, Luke? All right, so we want you to type your answer, typing your answer there and then putting it into the chat box. Which course book, which grades? 30 seconds. Go for it. 5 to 9 English Plus. Okay. Somebody's teaching 8, 9 and 11. Someone's teaching 1 to 10. Solutions 11. English 8 and 9 English Plus. Excel 8 and 9. English Plus and Solutions. English Plus 6 to 9. English Plus 5 to 8. My goodness, we've got some smiles there. 6, 9 and 10. 2, 5 and 6, grade 6s. English Plus and Solutions. We've got a range there and quite a lot from English Plus and the Solutions, but also some other course books as well. All right, we're going to stop it at 100. So you'll have 5 seconds to go. English Plus and Solutions. English Plus 8 and 9. Someone's doing Excel 5 to 8. Way ahead, I don't know way ahead, but I'll have a look. English Plus 6. 2 to go, 1 to go, Science 11, and we're going to end the poll there. Okay, all right, so what we'll be looking at today is the English Plus mostly and the Solutions grade 11. The activities we'll be doing, if you think about the principles, you will be able to adapt them to whichever course book you are working with and whichever grade you are working with. So we hope you'll find them useful. Okay, on to my next poll. Okay, the next one is just to find out what platforms are you using. So some of you use Zoom, some of you might use Google Classroom, Google Meets. In the chat box, not in the chat box, in the poll. Zoom, Teams, Google Classroom, Discord, that's the one I don't know, Google Meet, Zoom. Okay, a lot of you using Zoom, lots and lots of you using Zoom. They're looking pretty much like the majority. Google Classroom, Google Meet, some of you. Adobe Connect, like we're using today. Zoom. Okay, I think we'll end that poll there. You can see we've got a little bit of a range there. So now I've got a couple more questions to ask you. Have a look here. What can you see? Teenagers, what are they doing? They're on their mobile phones. So my question to you is, how important is social media in Kazakhstan? Poll number 3 coming up. Thank you, Luke. How important is social media for learning in Kazakhstan? They're texting, exactly. Is it something important? Very important. Very important. Very important now. Zamzagul, yes, exactly. Very important. Somebody here has put essential for learning. Life, necessary for life, really important. They were searching for things, so we use it for everything, don't we? It's like having a mini computer with you. Very useful to get information quickly. Now it's a very essential tool. I think that word now is really important, and it's especially important for teens. Yes, it's their world. I was talking to my niece and nephew once, and I was saying, why don't you call these people? Oh, no, we'll do it on the WhatsApp chat. Okay, so we're doing pretty well there. Yes, so I think we would all agree that it's very important there. I think we can end that poll there. And the fact that it's like something very important nowadays, given our situation where you're teaching online. So my final question to you is about you. And so for this poll, it is how do you feel about teaching online? Ready, Luke? Thank you. How do you feel about teaching online? Shy, uncomfortable, a little bit difficult. I feel sorry about it. You know what? Some of the teachers here, they're back now in schools. They were so happy to be back in the classroom. Uncomfortable, good. Some people are feeling good. Some people confident. That's really nice to hear. We have a whole range of how we feel about it, and that's very, very normal. The speed of the internet is sometimes problematic. That's definitely true. It is challenging. It's a great thing when you have time to create lessons with many tools, and we'll be looking at a few different tools, but it's quite understandable that it is a little bit difficult and challenging these days. Yes, need a good contact. And someone, Arinova, you've put it's something new, and I like it. I think when we're teachers, we get very comfortable with what we're doing, and you know, sometimes it's good to move ourselves out of our comfort zone and try new things. And certainly for me, I was very much a teacher trainer in a classroom, hands-on, but of course I've had to develop my skills to doing it online, and I began to realize that I can transfer that into an online situation, and I found it actually quite refreshing, discovering new things and working with new tools. Okay, we're going to end that poll there. Thank you very much, Luke. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. I'm just looking in the chat box here. I've got Kozlova. From my mind, I want to go to school. Many of the teachers did when here in the UAE. But we work using the internet and some platform. And you know what? It's something we have to do, so we get used to it after a while. But coming to the social media, we said that social media is really important now. So something very nice that we can do is we can work with it in the classroom online. So here is something from CIOB, and I'm going to pop that into the chat box. Going in there now. Okay, can you see that? If you hover on that, it will open up, or you can copy and save it for later. But this is something where you can see very quickly WhatsApp is really good for communicating with your students. It's also very good for them to communicate with each other. So why not, in our online session, work with some of the language there? So here we can create a WhatsApp. Good morning, everyone. Morning, Mr. Paul. Please study the reading strategy task on page 85 and prepare the questions for Zoom lessons this afternoon. Oh, and by the way, I'm waiting for your essays. Yes, I will send it soon. So you can do like a fake WhatsApp, you can do fake Snapchat, if you know Snapchat, Instagram, I think you probably know Instagram. So you can use this in the classroom online, and don't you think your students will be really motivated because it's their world? We saw that picture, we saw them there. Okay, so that's something that we can do, use the social media to engage our students a little bit more. And then let's have a look at something else here. We have here some online resources. These are freely available for you. I'm going to put those into the chat box. Oh, Luke's already put them into the chat box for the English Plus and then the one for the solutions. Okay, thank you very much, Luke. Okay, so we've got lovely resources there that are available online for you to download. You've got the TB and the PDFs, which is really useful. You've got class audio files. Now, some of you say that occasionally your students find difficulty listening when they're online. You could send it to them on the WhatsApp, and that they can then listen and follow. You've got teachers' resources, you've got assessment, formative, summative, planning, and individual plans for the students. So you've got a lot of information there. And with the English, the solutions is their EPUB books, and sometimes you might need this thing to open them with, Thorium. Okay, so I'm just popping that in the chat box to open them with. But Interpress will definitely support you with this. So if you have any issues or you didn't get the link, then you can contact Interpress and they will help you with that, okay? All right, so let's have a look now to our session. We're going to be looking at word clouds and how we can make our reading text or our listening text online something that will engage our students a little bit more. Okay, we're going to be looking at how we can use prediction to get our students into texts. Okay, so for example, this technique, can you finish the sentence? We're going to look at how we can do a little bit more to get them into our text through ordering some paragraphs. We're going to be looking at a fiction story, but we're also going to be looking at opening sentences that you can reorder. A tiny bit of looking at multiple option matching, and then a little bit at how we can work a tiny bit with the grammar. Okay. All right, so let's move on. Here I have a picture from a text we're going to be looking at. Actually, there are 3 pictures here. The psychology of yes. And here we've got some scratch cards. What do we use scratch cards for? We need our coin. We need to scratch out. See if we've perhaps won something. What does this whole image say to you? The psychology of yes. I can't do it. I can do it. In the chat box. Lottery. Maria, you're right. A bingo. Okay. What about the whole 3 things together? I can do it. Kozhirbayev. Excuse my pronunciation. Your names are quite new to me, so I might make a few mistakes with the pronunciation. Okay. Regina, bingo. Okay. Valulina, yes, I do it. Lottery. Motivation, exactly. I like this one from Maria. Everything is possible. Maybe a puzzle. Okay, someone's saying we don't use solutions. This is actually from English Plus, but it's the principle, it's the activity that you can then take the idea and use it back in your classroom with what you're using. Okay, lottos and games. All right, let's stop there. What we're doing here is we're just brainstorming some ideas to get them the idea, exactly, Irina, prediction. what their text is going to be about. So it's going to be about positive thinking, the psychology of yes. It's got something to do with scratch cards, we know that. And it's got that, can you see, I can't do it, I can do it. So it's thinking, I can't do it, let's remove that, let's think about yes. So let's move on now and have a look at our page. Here is our text, and this is the activity. Look at the title of the text and the photos. What do you think the text is about? Read and listen to check your answer. Okay, so when we think about that, how engaging and motivating is that going to be for the students to see the whole page, to have the text, and think they've got to listen and answer in an online situation? Someone has problems with the village, yes, and the internet and Wi-Fi connection are very difficult, exactly. Okay, so I think if we look at the text as a whole, we ask them to read it online, it can take, and listen, it can take quite a long time. So let's have a look at a way that we can do it that will actually get our students participating and interacting, and where that we build them up for success so that they can do some of these activities offline and not just in the on the online situation, so that we can support them with that. So by taking the pictures, we've started with getting them into brainstorming, exactly, Cholopan. So you've just started that. And we can develop some interactive skills there and some critical thinking. You're quite right. Parko Menko. Okay. All right. So let's, we're going to look at how we can explore these bottom-up strategies. So not looking at the text like that, but looking at smaller features to build up their ability there. Okay. Now, so we're going to start with a finish that sentence. It's a prediction. Okay, we're looking at the psychology of yes. Now, in your word cloud, you've got some different words there. You've got the psychology of yes. Can you complete the sentence and pop it in the chat box using all of the words in the word cloud? So try to see if you can use those words to finish the sentence. Who's going to be the first? Psychology of life is being active. Okay, that's a possibility. Well done, Korjibayev. Okay. The psychology is about life, being positive. So if you can use all of the words. We're almost there. The psychology of yes is about being active in life. Adil Beck, I think you've got it 100% right, as has Arinova, about being active in life. Let's have a look. The psychology of yes is about being active in life. It's the difference between an active and passive approach to life. So an active approach, we're going to predict this sentence. How is it going to finish? An active approach means, can you finish this sentence? Very good. It's about being active in life. Can you finish? An active approach means to be positive, SL. Could be. Being active in life. The psychology of life is about being active in life. Okay. And what do we mean by an active approach? Not being passive. An active approach means being creative. Means trying out every useful things, Nazar. An active approach is to say yes, absolutely. Okay, so, and here's one, when life has positive directions. Olga, to get pleasure out of every moment. think positively. Okay, we've got lots of lovely predictions now, and we're beginning to get a feel for what our text might be about. So let's have a look. The psychology of yes starts with the difference between active and passive approach to life. An active approach means you spend less time dwelling on what's wrong with your life and more time making improvements to aspects of your life and achieving your potential to be happy and successful. Let's have a look for a moment. Dwelling on. So that's in red. That's not in the text. That's something I've chosen to focus on. What does it mean? So let's look at the grammar around it. You spend less time ing on what's wrong with your life. So we know that dwell is a verb. What does it mean? Is it something positive or is it something negative? In the chat box, is it positive or is it negative? Negative, positive, negative, negative, positive. Somebody's wondering there. Negative. Okay, it is in fact a negative word. So we're going to have a look at that and see what we can do. In contrast, we can say one way to achieve your potential is to be happy and successful in English is by using the dictionary. So we are going to use the dictionary to find out what dwelling on means. So a very useful free online resource for you is the oxfordlearnersdictionaries.com. I'll pop that in the chat box in a moment. Oh, Luke's done that already. Thank you, Luke. Okay, and we can see we've got to dwell on something. And you'll see immediately it says there's a phrasal verb. So we found out something about that, and we can look and have we can work a little bit on phrasal verbs and what they mean. We've got a few useful examples here, and then we've got another meaning to look at something for a long time. Okay, so if we think about to dwell on something, it's a phrasal verb. Let's think about our phrasal verbs. They work much better for students if we group them. If we group them, you remember them more easily. So here are some common computing verbs that are phrasal and prepositional verbs. We've got them in blue and we've got them in black. Okay, why are they in black? Why are these ones in blue? Plug in, boot up, look for, click on, log in, log out, shut down. What's the difference? In meaning? Yes, they do differ in meaning. Literary and different meanings, the difference between them. Yes, Adilbek, what's the difference between why are they some in black and why are some in blue? Okay, is it possible, positive and negative? You could use that if you had those things, but that's not the case. Someone, I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name, but yes, you're absolutely right. Separable and inseparable. Okay, so for example, I can plug my computer in, I can boot my computer up, but I can't look my computer for. I can't click my mouse on, I click on my mouse, okay? Or click on something. All right, so that's one of the differences there. Now look for, you can have hyperlinks, and it means you can then go and look up more words and more meanings around the look for. So it's a very useful website to show your students and to get them to explore and see that the more we develop vocabulary, the richer their language will be and the better able they are in to absorb and understand texts. So do you think that's a useful thing? I would definitely show my students that dictionary. Okay. However, let's not dwell on the use of dictionaries, but let's keep it in mind, and let's move on because we don't want to run out of time. So we're going to move on now. And we noticed here that the red is a little bit sort of negative and the green is positive. Okay, so thinking about what we spend our time doing and what do you dwell on. So we can now ask our students to put in the chat box something that they maybe dwell on a bit too much. So for example, I sometimes dwell on my mistakes, what I did do, what I didn't do right. And what do you spend your time doing? So I spend quite a lot of time on my computer. I don't know about you. What do you spend your time doing? Reading, meaning, dwelling on my past actions. Yes, Maria. Cooking, Nazar. Yes. Checking students' exams, Adilbek. Chopin in meaning, reading. Preparing for lessons, absolutely, we do that. Someone goes to the gym. Teaching, absolutely. We spend a lot of time looking at methods of teaching. Okay, so we're going to be moving on here. Thank you for all your contributions in the chat box. Reading, looking, dreaming. I like that one. Okay, so we're going to read a short text now. We've been preparing for our text, and we're going to be learning a little bit about Danny Wallace. However, what we're going to do is we're not going to read the whole text. We're going to look from a bottom up. We've got some opening sentences of paragraphs. They're not in the correct order. Can you put them in the correct order and then type the letters in the chat box? Are you ready? Ready? I hope so. Okay, jolly good, let's go. So we've got 3 paragraphs. They're not the full paragraphs, they're the opening sentences, but we've jumbled them, we want to get them in the right order. Ready? Go. Who's going to be the first? Put all 3 in there, Ziza. We've got a CBA, CBA, CAB, C, CAB, CBA, CBA, CAB, CAB, CB. It seems to be, we all agree that C is the first one. We're not all agreeing on the A and the B. Okay, now, does it matter if we don't get it quite right? No, because it's a very good learning point to think about how does a text fit together, what links one paragraph to another paragraph, and it helps us get the whole meaning of the text in that way rather than focusing on very small details. So let's have a look. Our first one is C, and we all agreed on C. Here's an example. When his girlfriend left him, Danny Wallace stopped going out and developed a strong relationship with his sofa and his remote control. His attitude to everything was negative, and his passion for life had gone. Poor Danny. Okay. Our next one is A. So we're going from his passion for life had gone to it was only when a mystery man said 3 magic words, his whole world started to change and he became more positive and more passionate. So we've got a shift here. The stranger he'd met on the bus had a simple philosophy. What do you think that philosophy was? Remember our title? Psychology of Yes. Okay, so B was the last one. So the next time, so that links to the first, the middle paragraph, that a friend invited him to play football. Danny said yes. Near his flat, on the way to football, someone was begging for money. The beggar asked for £1. So we've got snippets of the text and we get a general idea of where the text is going. It's quite a nice, engaging way to get your students involved and motivated and to want to know more. Okay, they're interactive in the chat box. they're thinking about it. We're looking to understand how the cohesion and coherence works in a text, so how a whole text fits together. Now, let us pull out something and let us have a look at a grammar point. So here we have an example of when his girlfriend left him. We've got a narrative that's in the past. So we're analysing the text in the opening paragraph, and we're looking at past narrative. Okay, and you'll notice here we've got a red line, a red arrow, we've got a purple arrow, and we've got something that connects our two arrows together. So let's move to the next slide and have a look at this. Okay, what does our red arrow refer to? It refers to a time in the past about Danny. Okay. Any ideas in the chat box? A past experience. But which past experience? What happened to Danny? Do we remember? His event? Yes. You remember? Danny's girlfriend. That's it. Break up. The girlfriend left him. Tok'tao. Exactly. So when his girlfriend left him, Danny Wallace stopped going out and developed a strong relationship with his sofa and remote control. So here, notice you've got the red and your text is in red. Now, what do you think the purple arrow is? Yes, that's the action. What was the purple arrow? Do you remember the rest of the sentence? His girlfriend left him in the past, his state. Exactly. All right, do you remember? His passion had gone. Now, we know there he had passion. But here we've got his passion for life had gone. When his girlfriend left, this passion had gone. So we have a connection between two events in the past. Exactly. It's definitely the past perfect here. And you're quite right, he was in love. It's a bit of a love story, this. Okay. But what we're doing is we are visualizing actions. We're making a timeline. And we're making it see to come off the page to try to see where the events fit and to connect action, event, and the state of being. Okay, so it's a way of bringing it off the page. It's a way of making it more meaningful for our students. I think it helps to see a visual representation. Do you agree? Yeah. Exactly. If we just say, oh, okay, so this is the past tense, the past perfect, your students might go, okay, I've learnt the rules for the past perfect, but what does it actually mean? By thinking like this, we can actually begin to understand it visually. And we have to remember our learners are visual, they have audio senses and kinesthetic. So if we can start to imagine these things, it brings it more alive. I'm glad you agree. Jolly good. Okay, so we have different genres that we can do these things with. So for example, we looked at paragraph ordering to get into the text. We have this whitewater adventure. It looks very exciting. You have lovely, lovely places in Kazakhstan to go and do all these exciting things. But what can we do? We can take the picture first. We can explore the picture. We can ask them, what can you see? Have you had that experience? What do you think the dangers are? So we can already begin to get them predicting what the text is about. You can cover the title, or you just show them the picture, and you can ask them, can you think of a good title for this reading? Whitewater rafting. I wonder if any of you have done whitewater rafting. I can tell you what, I've never done it. But what are we doing? we are looking first at the top down, but then we want to start looking at bottom up approaches. So rather than reading the whole text, we want to predict the first paragraph. We want to predict the next sentence like we did before, exactly brainstorming. Dinara, you've done whitewater rafting, and Maria too, my goodness, and Nozdrina. I wonder how it was. It is an extreme sport. You can tell I have never done it. It's a great sport. Gwina, you said it's a dangerous kind of sport. Do you know what? I think it looks very dangerous, and personally, I think I'd be terrified. I'd probably be with my eyes shut and let the person in front of me do it. Anyhow, we're looking at bottom-up approaches. We can take the first paragraph. We could then take 2 lines from the second paragraph, 2 from the third, and 1 or 2 from the last. We can jumble them like we did the Danny Wallace. We can get them to think what's a logical order, and then they can put them back in there. So what we're doing is we're working with bottom up to engage and get our students interested. I can see you're already interested there. Let us look here. The grammar, it's things like the dangers. You could fall in. You might get very wet. All sorts of other dangerous things. Samsagul, you put, my students like such activities, and sometimes we don't start reading the text because we just get stuck at the stage of discussing. But I think that's great because it motivates them to want to read the text. And then, you know, you've done a little bit of work, maybe of a bit of jumbles or a bit of finish that sentence. Then they're going to be motivated to read that text, which they could perhaps do even offline in preparation for the next one. Svetlana, you say it's dangerous. Personally, to me, it looks really dangerous. But moving on, we have another story here from English Plus Grade 6. And this one, I read this tale. You know the tale of Kizhebek? I hope my pronunciation's not too bad. But what a wonderful tale, and what a sad story. And a very romantic story as well there. I think your students would be really engaged with this. But what can we do there? First of all, we can brainstorm. What do they know about Kizhebek? Okay, thank you for the correct. It is sad. But again, we can look at the first paragraph. We can jumble the paragraphs and get them to actually sort them out and decide what happens next. So lots of prediction, lots of sorting there. And how engaged they will be when they think, oh, I know this story. It's a really unhappy story, but it's a beautiful story. And I totally agree, Samsagul, that is a beautiful dress too. All right, and a beautiful girl. So ways to get your students engaged in your text, starting with the top down and then going into the bottom up where they start to actually sort out how the text fits together. And what you're doing there is helping them through a lovely story develop an understanding of text structure. Okay, so let's have a look now. Here we have it in the full, and we can see we've got a lot of past tenses here. So we could do some work on that as well to help them getting into the story. It's a traditional story. I thought it was a beautiful story, actually. Really beautiful. Okay, so again, when we want to think about the grammar in a text, let's use graphic representations. Let's get them to visualize it. We can analyze the structure, not just of the text, but of the tenses. We can analyze the modality or conditionals, for example. But another very nice thing to do, and I think this really draws your students into the text, is to personalize it. Okay, so we want to think, for example, imagine you are Danny. So now we've read a little bit, but we're actually going to try to put ourselves into the mind of Danny. What would we be feeling? So here we have, imagine you are Danny. Okay, this is now, so we're talking about it now. If I were Danny, okay, we're talking about it in the present, I would be feeling. Or, if I were Danny, I wouldn't be feeling. All right, could you pop some ideas into the text box? The text box. Can you pop some ideas into the chat box about if you were Danny, how would you be feeling? It is a second conditional. Sad, sad, sad. Yes, it is a state verb. So it's how you actually feel. So if I were Danny, I would be feeling unhappy. If I were Danny, I would be feeling unhappy, disappointed, sad. Exactly. It's what we would call the second conditional. Now let's stop for a moment and think. If we just say, okay, this is the second conditional, it doesn't have as much meaning as if we try to put our mind into that. Okay, so here we are visualizing it in the present. But now we're going to think about it. If I had been Danny, so we've finished the text, we've come back, we've discussed it, and we're going to think again. If I had been Danny at that time in the past, I would have felt, I wouldn't have felt. So what we're looking at here, that's just a little bit of a difference between a more formal and a spoken. If I'd been Danny, I would have felt, or I'd have felt. Okay? The main difference, what's the difference? Here you've got a second conditional, here we've got a third conditional. But what does that mean for our students? Pulling it off the page, exactly, and thinking about it, visualizing it, imagining it, giving examples, rather than calling it the second conditional, rather than calling it that, would help them to understand. So the difference really depends in our perception of time. Are we talking about it in the present time, like when we've just finished our text, or are we talking about it when we've looked at that a short while ago? So I think if we look at that in terms of thinking about visualizing timelines, personalizing it, it makes it more meaningful for our students. And as Iskav Gova says, it's the difference between real then and unreal. Both of them are unreal in that sense, but it's more that time perception. Expressing regret for the past, exactly. Okay, so it's one way of working with your texts, it's of grammar, is getting that sort of visual aspect in there and getting them imagining themselves in the situation. We also have a very useful, like changing a little bit the focus now. We said we were going to look at multiple option matching. Now this comes from Solutions, grade 11. You can look at it if you want to, but you've got something called the exam trainer. Now, all along the school, whatever your level you're teaching, you're building up their skills to be able to, they have to take exams at the end of the year. Some people have exams at the end of term. Some people have midterm exams. So it's quite useful to look for tips and how to help them that do that. So what we've been doing is looking at ways to understand how texts go together. We've been looking at reordering things, organizing paragraphs. We've been looking at matching. So let's have a look here. I think one reading strategy is really important. Oh, did we put that into the chat box? Let me just have a look. I think I didn't put that into the chat box there. Let's put that link into the chat box. I think anybody of you can access it, whether you're teaching Solutions or not. Interpress will help you. But let's just look at this. Strategies. Do not expect to understand every word or phrase in reading text. The overall context may help you to understand the meaning of unfamiliar words or expressions. I think that's a pretty useful strategy. Would you agree with that? We've got a yes or two there. Very good. Excellent. Yes. Okay. So we're going to look at a particular activity for this one. So here you've got your reading strategy. And I think as an idea, it's quite nice to show them what the reading strategy is that we're going to be using with whatever activity we're doing. Okay, so here they've got 3 paragraphs about medical breakthroughs, and they've got 6 questions. They have to put 2 questions to each paragraph. So that's what we mean by multiple option matching. What do they have to do? They have to understand the cohesion and coherence of a text in order to be able to match the correct questions. So if we go back to our paragraph ordering activities, our sentence prediction activities, we are building up those strategies right from early years to be able to do that. So if we have a look at this example here, you've got 4 texts, you've got multiple choice here. They have to decide which question, which title matches which texts. Now this is from English Plus Grade 7. I think it shows you that the more we work with this earlier on, the easier it is when they come to doing their exams, even at higher levels, to do that. We're building skills from early years. Would you agree? Yeah, working with paragraphs, working with that bottom-up approach there. Okay, critical thinking, absolutely there. Yes, absolutely. Okay, of course. All right. So we're just going to go back to our story of Danny again, and we're just going to have a look at how we can predict what's going to be next. So let's look at a multiple choice possibility. We know that his girlfriend left him. We know that he spent a lot of time looking at his TV. I don't know laser, so I'm going to have a look at that one. Okay, his attitude to everything was negative and his passion for life had gone. Oh, poor old Danny. Okay, now, what do you think is going to be the next paragraph? So we're moving on now and we're predicting. So we're, again, looking at the connections between paragraphs. What is the next paragraph? Is it 1? Is it 2? Or is it 3? Have a read and let me know. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. You're smart. You're really smart there. And everyone is in agreement. And you're absolutely right, because you guessed when I said you're smart. It is, in fact, 2. So he politely refused his friends' invitations. He sent happy birthday emails instead of going to parties. He texted people instead of phoning. He phoned people instead of visiting. He became that man who always had an excuse. Oh, poor Danny. However, we know from our earlier activity that things change. Remember that paragraph ordering? There was a man he met on the bus. We also know that he decided something to say yes, so we know that there's going to be a change. So what happens next? You're so brilliant, all of you. Number 2, what happened next? Okay, so the psychology of yes. He met that mystery man on the bus, and the mystery man said 3 magic words. And those 3 magic words, he won the lottery. Remember those scratch cards? I think you've guessed it right. These 3 magic words made him change his life, and he became more positive and passionate. The stranger he met had this simple philosophy. In his opinion, people without passion always said no. They missed a lot of opportunities in life. His advice to Danny was simply, say yes more. The man's philosophy interested Danny, and he decided to try an experiment. From that moment on, he would always say yes. Now again, here we could discuss the missed a lot of opportunities in life. Is there anything that you felt you've missed? I certainly know one time when I didn't say yes, and I really missed it. My brother was going on a trip across the desert in his car with 3 or 4 others, and he wanted me to join them, but I couldn't go because of two things. I had to drive myself on the desert, and I thought I'm going to get stuck in the sand. And secondly, I thought I couldn't leave my work. I regretted that. But then, so always saying yes. Somebody's put here, Smagulova, it's a great psychology. It is a great psychology. And don't you think it's a great psychology for our students? I'm forever telling my sister, don't think I can't, think I can. I can, I can, I can. Yeah. Adilbek, that's really a nice idea. There's no regret, it's experience, and we learn from experience. That's absolutely true. So what happened, as you quite rightly guessed, Danny won the lottery. Now, how? He said yes. A friend invited him to play football, if you remember. On his way to football, there was someone begging for money. He asked for £1. Danny said yes, but he didn't have any change. He went to the shop, he bought a newspaper, he gave the man the £1 coin, and when the scratch card fell out of the paper, Danny decided to play, and congratulations, Danny, he won. Yeah, I'm sorry you can't answer very quickly. Don't worry, you keep on answering, and it's interesting to see, Diana, your answers there. So it doesn't always work thinking positive, but it's always a good way to think positive. Danny won the lottery, absolutely. Bravo to Danny. We'll come back to Danny a little bit later, but just thinking about our tenses here, graphic ways of looking at tenses. We looked at timelines, but we can also look in doing it like this. You have the present. We talk about the present for daily routines, for fact, for opinion. The past, we think about yesterday. We think about last time we did something. It was a happy end, Adilbayeva. Okay, sorry. We think about ago. But when we're thinking about present perfect, we're thinking about an area in the middle here. So we're thinking about a past that connects to the present. Since, for, we're thinking about unfinished time. It did have a happy ending, and he did win the lottery. So let's have a look here. Past perfect. So another way to show that past perfect, here is a moment in the past. He no longer had passion for life. Here is a moment before that. He had passion for life. And in the middle, you've got some useful words there. His passion for life had gone since his girlfriend left him. A Venn diagram. So it's another way of that graphic representation. All right, so here we go. We started reading The Psychology of Yes about 30 minutes ago, a time in the past. We finished reading it about a minute ago. We were analysing the paragraph structure and bottom-up reading in between our 2 points. And now, for the present, we're thinking about our present. We have looked at reading strategies, present perfect, and now we're going to watch a video and predict vocabulary. But we're not going to do that till after the break. So timelines, visual actions, events. I hope you like them. I hope you think they'll be useful for your students. Okay? Different ways that we can bring it alive and make our lessons online a little bit more creative and motivating for engaging for our students. So I'm going to just hand over briefly to Luke because we're going to have a short break. Thank you, Luke. We've got time for about 5-minute coffee break or a cup of tea or a glass of water. Luke, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for a great first session. As Jill said, we're going to take a short break now, but we're going to be back in about 5 minutes or so with the second half of today's session. So don't go anywhere. We're going to play some music while the break is in play. So we hope you enjoy it. See you very shortly.